become named. मैंने शार्ट फिनिश करो. राखी जल्द चल. हेलो.
Okay, now I'm asking question from offline students. How do build flow? You build the online.
Good morning, all of you. Welcome in the FDP session from Dev Samaj College, Sector 45, Chandigarh. Well, many participants are still in the process of joining. I would request to have patience, and we are also waiting for our resource person. He's joining us shortly. So we'll be starting in another 10 minutes or so. Let us wait for more participants. Please bear with us. Thank you. Good morning, all of you. Welcome in the FDP session from Dev Samaj College, Sector 45, Chandigarh. Well, many participants are still in the process of joining. I would request to have patience, and we are also waiting for our resource person. He's joining us shortly. So we'll be starting in another 10 minutes or so. Let us wait for more participants. Please bear with us. Thank you. Good morning, all of you. Welcome in the FDP session from Dev Samaj College, Sector 45, Chandigarh. Well, many participants are still in the process of joining. I would request to have patience, and we are also waiting for our resource person. He's joining us shortly. So we'll be starting in another 10 minutes or so. Let us wait for more participants. यार ये कौन फोन करी जा रहा है सबीना? आप ये पकड़ ही लो जरा। ये क्या हो रहा है? मेरा वीडियो क्यों नहीं ऑन हो रहा? बात सुनो, मेरा वीडियो नहीं ऑन हो रहा। Very good morning to all of you. I, Rakhi J. Singh, Associate Professor in Dev Samaj College for Women, Sector 45, Chandigarh, and being a coordinator of this program, extend a very warm welcome to all the participants in the 5-day faculty development program on art and science of effective teaching strategies and methods, organized by Dev Samaj College for Women, Sector 45, Chandigarh, under the aegis of AICTE Training and Learning Academy, Atal Academy. Today, we are grateful to Dr. Agnes Dhillon, Secretary Dev Samaj Managing Committee, for acting as the chief patron in the program, and Dr. Meena Chopra, Principal Dev Samaj College for Women, for constantly guiding us throughout. Madam Principal is amongst us. Today, I would like to invite her to address this August gathering. Madam Dr. Meena Chopra. Madam, I hope Madam is around. Madam, please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Good morning, all. Thank you, Rakhi Madam. I welcome you all to the Faculty Development Program on Art and Science of Effective Teaching, Strategies and Methods under the aegis of AICTE Training and Learning Academy, beginning from today. I extend a warm welcome to our resource person for the inaugural session, Dr. Kuldeep Puri, retired Professor of Education, Punjab University, Chandigarh. Dr. Kuldeep Puri is a pioneer and has imparted number of lectures benefiting many. I also thank our worthy chairman, Shriman Nirmal Singh Ji Dhillon, Secretary Dev Samaj, and Dr. Agnes Dhillon, Madam, Secretary of our college, for providing constant support and guidance for such activities. I congratulate the organizing team of this FDP under Mrs. Rakhi J. Singh and wish them all success for smooth functioning of this event. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your blessings. And with your blessing, we now start with the proceedings of today's program. Well, friends, the health and wealth of any nation are anchored on its education. And thus, success of any education depends largely on the quality of teachers and their teaching effectiveness. Well, being an effective teacher in itself is a big challenge because every student is unique. However, by using a combination of teaching strategies, you can address their varying learning styles and academic capabilities, as well as make your classroom dynamic, and you can instill motivational environment for students. Moreover, teaching methods and strategies have undergone tremendous changes in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic, as you all know. There has been a tremendous shift, including online teaching processes on an unprecedented scale. This has led to its own share of challenges and opportunities for teaching and learning. So, keeping in mind the whole scenario, we have organized today a 5-day FDP in our college. The main objective of this program is to develop teaching, training, and content development skills of the participants. Now let's begin with the first session of today's program. I'm pleased and honored to invite today's speaker, Dr. Kuldeep Puri. Dr. Puri is a retired professor of education, USOL, Punjab University, Chandigarh. Today he's going to speak on teaching, learning methods and strategies. His area of research is education policy and political economy of education. He has guided many PhDs during his 32-year span of teaching experience. Dr. Kuldeep Puri has contributed to the draft Punjab State School Education Policy 2020 as a member of the Punjab State School Education Policy of Committee constituted by the Government of Punjab. He has also contributed to the Joint Review Mission report on the status of teachers' education in Punjab in the year 2013 as a member of Joint Review Mission on Teacher Education for Punjab, constituted by Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India, New Delhi. He has, to his credit, 2 major publications: Policy Disclosure on Higher Education in India and The Trials with Martyrdom, Trial of Madan Lal Dhingra. I once again welcome you, Dr. Puri, and invite you to address our audience. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much for this generous introduction. It's my privilege that I have been given an opportunity to share some of the ideas and some of the views that are connected with a very crucial issue of teaching and learning. Well, friends, these are the very trying times, and many changes we have seen at the global level. And as Professor was rightly referring to, a very specific pandemic situation that has gripped us, and still we are not completely out of it. Now, these situations mixed with many other issues which are related to commerce and economy, they are influencing to change the total scenario and total picture of education in our country. It is done in many other countries also, but it is affecting, it's increasingly influencing the discourse on education in our country also. Now, in this context, we have to be very, very careful, and we have to be very, very critical in appreciating the things, understanding the issues in depth, and then taking the course of action that would be in the benefit of our generations. Friends, whenever we talk of teaching and whenever we talk of teachers, the first and the foremost thing that comes to our mind is learning by students. So actually, teaching is predicated with the learning of the students. So why do we teach? We teach because we want that our students, the next generations, they should learn. The meaning thereby, the fundamental issue that is to be considered is how learning takes place, what learning is, how the different diverse quality and of students, they respond to the learning situations. So in my total discourse that I will be sharing with you, I will first be focusing on the issue of learning. Because when we add details, in details discuss about the different contours of learning, then we will be able to pinpoint and decide about what teaching strategies we are going to use. And later on, in the third part, I would be just presenting some of the critical issues that are involved, which these influences, they come from political arena, these influences, they come from neoliberal economic arena, the policies that we are following, we have been following for the last 3 decades. The first, and then I would just again make a request to you, maybe that during my talk, you may have questions, or you may feel tempted to stop me at any juncture and ask me any question. I would really welcome it. You can stop me any moment. You can ask me any question. At any moment you can interrupt and ask the question. We will not leave it only to the later part of this session. So that would be your wish, as you want to do. Now, friends, this is very interesting that how the question is that, do we really know that how the students learn? That's very crucial. Yes, to just introspect about it, that do we really know that how the students learn? Let's try to first define, or let's try to first conceptualize what learning is. Well, learning is about how we perceive and understand the world from a student point of view, how we, and from anyone's point of view. I mean, all of us are students. Whenever we become students, we may be placed anywhere. The first issue is that how we perceive and understand the world around. It's about making meanings. It's about understanding the nuances. It's about understanding what is happening around. And if we just go a little further, whatever we learn, whatever we understand, whether it's a subject, whether it is issues of life, whether these are the issues related to interpersonal relationship, whether these are the issues related to the macrocosm of our society, it is mastering of some abstract principles. Now, whenever we understand some concept, we understand some concept on the basis of certain evidences and proofs. We don't agree to the things without any substantial evidence that is produced in front of us. We don't believe. Now, that process of understanding the proof, or understanding, assimilating the evidence, is about learning. Yes, it is about remembering factual information also. It is about acquiring some methods, techniques, approaches, reasoning, debating ideas, or developing some appropriate kind of behavior in a very specific situation. Friends, you will appreciate when I am explaining it in this context, you must be, you may agree with me that it is about change. Whenever we say learning is happening, some transformation is happening, some change is happening. People say that in a very simple definition, many people say it's a change in behavior and all that. Fine, that is a psychological explanation of the learning. But then, of course, yes, learning relates to a change. But now, the crucial thing is that it's not, very simple to translate this knowledge, that how the students learn, into practical implications for teaching. How can we help students to learn? How can we make students learn? How can we, strategize our technique and methods which are aimed at successful learning on the part of students? This is really the catch. This is really the major issue. Of course, it's a major issue because of the fundamental understanding one must have. The second issue is that whenever we are in front of, in amidst our students, see, they come from different contexts. They come from diverse backgrounds. See, they have a unique mental makeup. And that is why a teacher in a classroom, whenever thinks of reaching to the students, is to be conscious of the challenges that the diversity in the group of students pose in front of him or her. Many people, when I say that the students are from diverse background, it can be economic, it can be social, it can be regional, it can be linguistic, and so on and so forth. It can be cultural many times, because we are living in a period when it's an issue, it's a period of multiculturalism and multilingualism, and which is to be accepted and which is to be rather celebrated. Now, when I say that all this is there, then I don't want to say, or I don't recommend that for comfort of teaching and learning process, one should kill or try to eliminate the diversity. Not at all. This is not the case. Diversity cannot be eliminated. It has to be celebrated. And whenever there is a homogenization does not lead to very comfortable and profitable and beautiful situations, which some people might think. Now here, when we are contemplating on the issue of learning, then I just want to bring to your notice some of the trends that since time immemorial, some of the trends that have been coming up in the term of concepts, that how the learning is actually being done. See, on the screen, I can see a hand raised. Dr. Saadullah Khan, do you want
Yes,
to ask any question?
yes, sir, if you allow.
Please, you are most welcome.
Okay, sir. When right now you are talking about homogenization, I mean, and you are talking about the very concept that in terms of education,
Yes.
homogenization might lead to sometimes an uneasy affair. Don't you think? Or exactly, I do believe the same as what you are saying right now. Don't you believe homogenization in its own context is a very undemocratic idea? That's
Of
what I believe.
course, of course.
Standardization is a democratic idea, but homogenization is not at all a democratic idea, but rather a fascist or dictatorial idea.
Yes, Dr. Saadullah Khan, maybe that I was also highlighting this point only, because if you thought that I am in favor of homogenization, actually no, I was actually highlighting and flagging the dangers of homogenization.
Yeah, sir, that's what actually we are looking forward to hear more from you on this aspect. If you can throw
Yes,
some light on that one, for sure,
yes,
sir, please.
actually, see, the point is that you cannot have a classroom which is totally homogeneous. You cannot, and it's not natural. It's just not possible. You can't have a garden having one kind of flowers and one color of flowers. It has to be a bouquet. It has to be a variety. And the nature doesn't bring out the homogeneous individuals. They differ in quality, they differ in nature, right? So, well, at this point of discussion, what I was actually highlighting, that the variety, the diversity in the classroom is a virtue. Why is it a virtue? When the classroom is diverse, when the students from different backgrounds, they mix up, they learn better from each other, because teaching and learning has its social context. It cannot be done in isolation. You remember this, that teaching and learning is not a process which can be achieved, or which can be done in isolation. No, the research evidence tells us, more is the diversity in the classroom, more is better is the learning of the students, better is the quality of human development. Better is the understanding of all the students about the issues in the society that they face. It's the variety and diversity in a classroom or in a school, which we are actually in a way trying to scuttle and minimize. In fact, the research evidence tells us that the heterogeneity of the classrooms, they bring out better results. If you permit me to quote Professor D.S. Kothari, when he gave a report in 1966, that Kothari Commission report, on the basis of which we had the first policy of education in 1968, when actually he was talking of a common school system, and when he was talking about the private entrepreneurs coming into the field of education, and the government efforts being done for educating the generations, actually he commented one thing. He said, whether you are in a private managed institution or you are in a government managed institution, we have to take care of one basic thing, that if we segregate the sections of society in schools, that would bring a big disaster. So if you segregate institutions for poor, you segregate institutions for rich, and then this division can be, you see the permutation combinations. These divisions can be of n times. And Kothari had warned us that if segregation happens in classroom, that would be a disaster. One must prevent it. I am actually worried that we did not pay heed to that warning, what Kothari Commission had told at that moment. And now on economic front and on the economic basis, we are seeing that the institutions are being segregated. Now you have some schools for slum dwellers, you have some school for, some other elite sections. This variation, this segregation is now happening, and it has already happened to a larger extent. And it's like this, that we are building islands. Anyway, this was Dr. Sadullah actually referred to, so I just spoke a little 10 lines more about that. But then coming to the basic point which I was making, I was saying that the teachers, they face a challenge in classroom while teaching, because they find that the students are from different backgrounds, they are from different levels of understanding, their cognition levels are different. And in that context, the strategies are to be built. The strategies and the methods are to be followed. And what is the aim? The aim is that each and every student in the classroom learns whatever is supposed of him to learn. So having this background in front of us, I was just trying to refer to certain conceptual frameworks that in the last century that we came across. One was actually this rationalism. Well, some of the thinkers, they were of this view that there's a biological plan existing in every individual that likely unfolds in determined directions. So every individual has a potential which brings out something good. Noam Chomsky and some other thinkers are of this view. Then later on, another concept came up that was of associationism. Association that centered around forming associations between stimulus and response. See, some stimulus comes and then a response comes up. Where that was Pavlov and Skinner theories of associationism. Okay, well, you do this and this will happen. You create one situation which would be like a stimulus, and the students or the teachers or everyone would respond to that, and that would be a stimulus response relationship association. You create associations, and this association had a larger meaning also, and that was that when your content, when your subject, when your meta which is to be taught is connected, associated with the life around, that makes a meaning. And if it is out of context, it doesn't make any meaning And 21st century saw another word which is quite in vogue now, though it's again goes back to 60s, but then 1960 and 1950s and all that. It's a concept of that came up there, Vygotsky and others, and Brunner and some other thinkers. That was constructivism. And this constructivism actually now is in vogue, and they say it's a cognitive and social theories of learning, where the students, they learn, and it's social in context. It is of course cognitive in context. Now here, I would just like to elaborate a little more on this concept, which is actually nowadays being talked of very fondly and very rightly, so fondly. Now this has a bearing on our learning process, and this is a bearing on our teaching process. Constructivism believes in one basic concept, that is that the students, they construct their own knowledge. And how do they do that? It's a continuous building, amending of structures in the mind that hold knowledge. Well, you can say schemata. There is a schemata in the mind that goes on. Learning, actually, as I told you earlier, well, it involves the process of individual transformation. People actually construct their own knowledge. And the knowledge that they construct through their own processes, it is different from swallowing and vomiting out of some factual information. It's not that. It relates to understanding. We learn by fitting new understanding and knowledge into which is already existing knowledge with us. It is extending the existing knowledge. It is supplanting the existing knowledge or old understanding or knowledge. That way, I would say that then when we are talking to students, and those students, whether they are adults 18 plus in a college, or to say if they are children in a primary school, we are not writing on a blank slate. They are already having something written on their mind. Whenever a child comes to school from home, it's not blank slate. And more so, when after passing school examination, when students come to colleges, they are already having some kind of information, knowledge, understanding that may be incomplete, that may be wrong on in many cases. That can be true. I may be having an understanding of something which is totally wrong. But then having wrong information or wrong understanding is one thing. And having no understanding is totally different thing. So you would agree with me, friends, that no student would come to a college with a blank mind and a blank state. And what happens in constructivist approach? When a student listens to a teacher in a classroom, Now, whether teacher is lecturing or saying the things in whatever forms he or she decides to reach out to the students, that's a different issue. And I respect all the methods, right from lecture method up to all this hands-on experience and all that. There is no dispute on that, right? Then when a student is listening to a teacher in a classroom, it's a natural process that he or she tries to connect what teacher is saying now in the classroom with what he has already learned earlier. It is quite natural, it's quite possible that maybe that whatever he already had with him, or whatever understanding about the topic, a student came equipped with in the classroom, maybe totally in consonance with what the teacher is saying in the classroom. Now, in that case, what happens? That the understanding of the student, which he already had, gets confirmed, gets strengthened. He becomes more firm in his understanding and faith that whatever he understood about the situation was very correct. Another possibility can be that there is a discordant note, there is a difference. And it happens many times, friends, with all of us it happens, that we were having some impression about something somewhere made in whatever manner that was made. And whenever we confront the classroom lecture by a teacher, and we find that whatever we learned or whatever we have been thinking of this particular issue, the teacher is presenting totally a different version of that. It's not corresponding with our understanding what teacher is saying now. A confusion gets created. This confusion leads to questioning in the minds of the students. The student questions why the teacher is saying like this, and questions himself also or herself also. How was I understanding this issue in this manner, and this teacher is saying is totally different? Now, this confusion, this area, this gray area, is the ripe area for learning and understanding. See, the best situation in any classroom, and especially in higher education classrooms, would be when the questions are raised in the minds of the students. And that confusion, that conflict of the versions or the conflict of the understandings leads to questioning. The student asks questions, and a sympathetic, spirited teacher always welcomes that question, tries to explain. Now, here is a learning and understanding is taking place. Now, here the transformation is building up. Now, here, whatever concepts and whatever understanding, little or good or bad or poor or bright, students were having, it's undergoing a change. And he is trying to learn the things afresh. Or I would say that he is trying to see the world around her, equipped with his own understanding and with the concepts presented by her teacher in the classroom. And that churning takes place in the mind of a student. And this is, friends, learning. It is actually transformation. And this is constructivist approach. Constructivist approach, and which has implications on our teaching behavior also. That, it promotes, encourages rather, multiple perspectives on the issues. It does not commit itself to oneness only. This one everywhere, everything in one form, everything in one shape, everything in one fashion is really not humane. It's not really very good, right? It's these are the multiple perspectives. If everything is one, then the second doesn't need to exist. Then if everything is to be unique, if everything has to be in only one mold, then the second, third, fourth mold doesn't need to exist. I was just reminded one very saying. See, it was a matter of not a joke, but presented in a form of joke. That was when two people agree on each and every issue, then one need not exist. This difference of opinion, the difference in your perspective, variation in your viewpoint is the hallmark of teaching in higher education. These differences, these multiple perspectives, these different shades of knowledge and information and presentation, they give rise to new knowledge. And higher education is about generation of new knowledge. What we many times in situations do is totally contrary to what I was just explaining. Fortunately or unfortunately, rather I would say unfortunately, we are tied up with the examination system in such a manner. Our assessment system and our gradation and then placing of students in next to the next years of classes and semesters and so on. The demands by this system are such that we many a times make a mistake. See, then we say addition to knowledge. Addition to knowledge, we understand that it's all knowledge, it's all teaching, and it's all learning. Now, addition to knowledge in the sense that you accumulate facts, then without any substantial transformation. That is, I'm bombarded with information. I'm bombarded with the facts. I'm supposed to learn those facts. I'm supposed to retain those facts. And then I'm supposed to write down those facts in the examination. And then I get whatever awards and marks and gradation and go to the next and go to the next. Now this process is going on. You see, dear friends, कुछ भी मजबूरियां तो रहती होंगी ही, टीचर्स की भी और स्टूडेंट्स की भी, और सिस्टम भी उन मजबूरियों को हमारे ऊपर लाद देता होगा. But then one thing is sure, and that is this is in fact detrimental to the health of higher education. This is actually the fundamental reason that many times when we find ourselves nowhere in ranking, when we find ourselves not very exemplary in research across the world, that is actually at the root of that problem, probably. And in any learning of a higher order, see, can only happen when your existing schemata or existing structures, they change themselves to incorporate new and new linkages, new understandings. So this is actually the situation which is going to lead towards a better teaching learning process and a better teaching learning situations. The next point that I want to share with you, friends, that whenever I understand that the demands of assessment are very different kind. We become pragmatic and we become very practical, but then I tell you, today we are not talking of practical and pragmatic approaches. If at all, I think this is, I take liberty that this is a forum where you will be interacting with each other for another 5-6 days, that we talk of certain things which may look like, very impractical, but otherwise very meaningful and otherwise very desirable. So everything practical may not be desirable, and everything desirable may not be practicable many a times, but then we can't leave any of these. Now, I feel that when students, they tie up with the examination system, when they only are subjected to see the remembering the facts, and that is equated with knowledge. Unfortunately, in total school system also, almost we killed the curiosity of students. We pressure them that, well, don't ask questions. These questions will lead you nowhere, and you will only remember the facts and reproduce and get off from the school. But then in higher education, one should not actually do this. Now, when I say there is a deep approach and there is a surface approach, in higher education, and rather in every kind of education, wherever learning is to take place, whenever some knowledge is to be generated or assimilated, it has to be a deep approach. And what is deep approach? That is, you understand, you have intention to understand and seek meanings, and that lead a student. When student follows the deep approach, and when teacher promotes a student to have a deeper approach, then he is actually trying to understand the things. He is actually trying to seeking the meanings of the concepts. Student attempt to relate the concepts with existing understanding. It distinguishes between new ideas and existing ideas. It critically evaluates and determines the key concepts and central themes. facts are learned in a context. Facts are not learned in isolation. One example, see, when off the mark, a student is asked, "Okay, which is the capital of this country or that country?" I mean, just a very rudimentary example. What is the climate of that country? So this is doing the things in isolation. No, I have not to remember, see the list of the countries and the capitals and all that. But then when I see the things in a context, well, this is the country, this is the capital, and this is the nature and character of this, and that is this. I mean, it is a context. It is never in isolation. So when the facts are poured in isolation, that is not the thing. The deep approach is that you go into the deeper context. And when you follow the surface approach, and the very first thing is complete the task. Oh, well, in whatever way, complete the task. Memorize the information. Make no distinction between new and old. Treat the task as externally imposed. Rote learning gets promoted. It's really, rote learning is a typical example of surface approach of learning. Now here, the facts are learned without a meaningful framework. That is why the students, they never get enthused, interested in remembering the facts which are out of context. And remember, if certain facts are totally out of context and which have no relation with the lives of the people in any case, then you may use any teaching method. I'm telling you, that doesn't make any difference. Now, since I have talked much about the learning, let me a little come towards the teaching. Now, my task becomes a little simpler. Now, any strategy that we have to follow for teaching, that has to address to the style of learning or approach of learning we want to follow with our students. See, if we want to follow the surface approach, or if we want to follow that, the context, the meaning, the criticality, the analysis, all these things can take a back seat. And we have only to flood the students with the facts, expect them to learn those facts, reproduce those facts, then our teaching strategies and methods would be totally different. And when we go to the other way around, when our approach is that the learning has to be constructivist in approach, we have to be constructivist in approach. It has to be a critical pedagogy. It has to raise the levels, the cognitive levels of the students to a stage where they can rationally think and analyze the situations. Of course, friends, our teaching methodology would be addressing to those needs. In many of the universities, there was a project was taken by some groups internationally, and they had some research surveys and all that in different universities at how they are across the world and how they are actually, what initiatives they are taking and how the things are happening. Well, it was noticed that in present context, higher education is becoming a major driver of economic competitiveness in knowledge-driven, so-called knowledge-driven global economy. Society is concerned about the quality of teaching and all such things. So the context are changing. The situations are changing. Society is now much more worried about or concerned about the quality of education that is coming out in the institutions. From that point of view, teaching methods, we have many. The very popular, very old method that we have been using since time immemorial and which is now abused and very wrongly abused like anything, that is lecture method. I would dare to commend, friends, if you don't take it otherwise, that this it has become a fashion to ridicule lecture method day in and day out, without appreciating the inside beauty of this method. We have been following this method, and we have been following some other methods also. The lecture method always, an ideal lecture method always led to some critical questionings, some discussions, some thought-provoking ideas came out from the lectures, and they still come out. Then that would lead to seminars. That would lead to discussions. These are all the parts, that the methods that we use in teaching, in actually equipping the students with knowledge and learning and all that. This is the way that we teach them. The projects, the working on projects with around what is happening in their lives. Now these methods, actually they differ with the subjects, the different subjects. The languages, the social sciences, the commerce and other areas, these different disciplines, they have different kind of methods they apply, which are somewhere the hands-on experiences are required. You cannot find any alternative to an actual full-fledged, beautiful, equipped laboratory in a college if you want really to do a good science. You cannot expect a student to talk of management and all related concepts and issues without having any connect with industry and the people working around in the society. You cannot think of any sociology class or any psychology class without having any contact with the people around in the society. So it needs projects. It needs small research projects, some assignments, some actual connect with the society. See, all these methods are respectable methods, and all these are to be used with ingenuity. Whenever they are required, they are to be used. Now, apart from books, journals, now we have another curricular site from where we get a lot of information, and that is online resources, internet. Now, lot many things that come from internet. Now, internet is another source which we employ, which we use in our teaching methodology. It has to be a very intelligent amalgam, combination of all these resources and all these methods to reach out to a student for one purpose, which we have already discussed in a few minutes ago, that is learning, right? Now, when we are, I was just talking of that survey. Actually, now what happened, that they said that there were two types of initiatives. Now remember, one was the top-down approach, and the other was bottom-up approach. Now they were actually saying that there was a top-down approach. Actually, what happened, that institutions of higher education, they decided that certain teaching methods are to be used. Now this is it. Just say, well, as a friend in the very beginning, Professor Rakhi talked of online education and some such a change scenario in post-COVID, we had to go in for all this and this, right? So this is one way that we are now trying to reach out to our students. I'll talk a little later about this in detail. Now then, we had then top-down approach. The institutions decide that we want that this type of method should be used, and those initiatives were taken, and the teachers, they actually followed those methods, and results were evaluated. Now, but the point was that all the initiatives in different methodologies, which were to be followed by the teachers, they were determined by the leadership of that institution. So things were decided at the top, and teachers were to follow. Second was the bottom-up approach. In some of the universities, a teacher was free, had a rather, I would say, autonomy to use any kind of initiative, any kind of teaching method he or she felt is most suitable for her students, for quality teaching, for quality learning, going by the context, going by the nature, the uniqueness of the group that she or he is teaching, the kind of environment that is in the classroom, and the kind of cognitive level the students have. Teachers were deciding about those initiatives or the methods. The aim was again a kind of constructive learning of the students. And then those initiatives taken by different teachers were adopted by institutions as their initiatives. So this was bottom-up approach. I don't have any problem with any of the approach getting successful in reaching out to the students in a perfect manner. But then the problem actually was that I feel a little skeptic about the curtailment of academic freedom on the part of a teacher. If you don't give a teacher a freedom to use the method of teaching according to his or her own understanding, believe me, the things are not going to improve. No one sitting at the top, and he may be anything, cannot decide everything what is happening, cannot decide effectively if he starts doing micromanagement. See, that domain is of a teacher. So with bottom-up approach, I am happy, but the top-down approach, I find that it curtails the academic freedom of a teacher. And when a teacher's academic autonomy is curtailed, friends, I tell you, teacher is bound to get disconnected with the reality of the classroom. It has happened in schools. I'm afraid it may not happen in colleges and universities. I'm afraid. In schools, it has completely happened. I give an example of Punjab. In Punjab, teaching methodology, your curriculum, your timetable, what are you going to teach today, which subject, which topic you are going to teach tomorrow, in how many days you are going to complete that topic, and how after 5th day you will be at which topic. Everything is decided centrally at the state level. And all the schools, in the name of getting them to work, and all the schools in the name of making them more efficient, this is happening. And the teachers are bound to follow the instructions, regardless of the fact that whether the stipulated time of 5 days to teach one concept to the students was enough to reach out to the students of that classroom by a teacher or not. Maybe that the students in that group required 2-3 days more, but then teacher has no autonomy. So with the top-down approach, where academic autonomy or the freedom of choosing any methodology and teaching method is done, then it becomes really a problem. I was talking of this time, I think it is now 11:10. So I'll another take 10 minutes and then we will go into discussion. Yes, I was just commenting that on lecture method, we said that it is being now ridiculed as a dull method, teacher-centered monologue. But then, you know, actually, we forget one thing, that it, in many ways and in many forms, it provides key meeting points of teaching and research. What I'm worrying is, friends, that there's an increasingly a managerial orientation is taking place that is being accelerated by micromanagement of online teaching and learning as a part of response to this pandemic. And it is, and the empirical evidence that we have is that such policies are diminishing the creative and critical freedom of academics. Just we are actually being pushed into a uniform kind of system. I am reminded of one article that one educational theorist, Professor Krishna Kumar, wrote in EPW a few years ago, the teaching in neoliberal state. He said that the techno-utopia has overtaken us. Now they say that every problem that we have in educational field will be fixed by technology. The new education policy also gives weight on disruptive technology and technology in education. And they have now opened one, they have planned in this budget an online university. And for school education, 200 e-Vidya channels. And all this, you know, it is being promoted. It is being, it's being understood as panacea for all the problems. Professor Krishna Kumar in his article writes that this techno-utopia is leading us. And this PowerPoint presentation came out as just a byproduct of that and all these things. He says that this has actually robbed us of the discursive nature of education that we used to have in classrooms. He writes that when we have been going to the classrooms in universities and colleges, and whenever we were teaching and talking to the students, we prepared our lessons, we prepared that this is to be taught today, and students were listening, and students were raising certain questions, and those questions would lead us, the teachers, to an area which was otherwise earlier not decided by us to deal with. And then the discussion would go to uncharted paths, and a lot of things would be learned in that discussion. That charm, that deviation, that natural deviation that came out from the questions of the students, that has totally been marred. See, if in a classroom, and that too in a higher education classroom, if the students' noise, noise means the noise of questions. If students' noise is not raised, if the questions are not raised, then no higher education class has taken place actually. This is Professor Yashpal has been saying time and again, that if a teacher goes in a classroom and there is no questions and he teaches and comes out, understand that no teaching has taken place. So that's the nature of higher education, because in higher education, you expect so many things. And we are actually, when we stick to online education, and I hope that we should soon return to face-to-face, so-called traditional teaching. Yes, you keep on recording the lectures also and do all that. We should go back to that, because learning has a social character, friends. It cannot happen in isolation. Now, I am talking from one room, sitting in one room, totally closed from all the sides. You friends are also sitting in your rooms, maybe closely from all the sides. And then I'm talking and you're listening, and maybe that such online situations, it's a one-to-one in isolation when we are sitting. See, that is no, replacement for a social cognitive context that happens with discussions, that happens with groups. So it is not a healthy sign. Well, I am also skeptical about this virtual labs and virtual this laboratory, see everything getting virtual. See the hands-on experiences, the actual physical touch with the things is very much required. And that is actually, that's actually very pertinent and important. And if we go a little further and we understand about this online, I don't want to enter into see the business component of online companies that is actually promoting all this kind of scenario. Whenever they want to sell, they only tells, there is no alternative. Whenever they want to sell, they say this is the best. And I'm sorry that many of the philosophical and ideological moorings, they press in to promote certain things. But then, friends, we, the teachers and the students in universities and colleges, have to be a little more discreet, and we have to be more conscious of it. Let's not leave this rational and critical thinking. Let's not leave asking questions. Let's not allow our students to sit in sleep in the classrooms, and let not any classroom situation, whatever may be the reasons, slips into a somber memorization event. It has to be a vibrant event. It has to be a vibrant place, whatever may be the cost, whatever may be the challenges. Friends, I stop here. Thank you very much for giving me a patient hearing. And I would really welcome your observations, your critical questions, and I'll try that if I can respond to those. Thank you very much. Kulveer Singh ji, please, you can go ahead.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving such a nice knowledge. Sir, just one thing I would like to ask, how to maintain the temperament inside classroom? Because different type of students are there, and sometimes a situation has been either deliberately created and somehow they came. So how we can realize?
It's a beautiful question. It's a simple question having so large, connotations, which answering this is just not possible in few lines or minutes. Friend, you are right that you refer to the challenges that we face in classroom, right? The calm, the inner calm of a teacher is the best bet to face any kind of situation, number one. If someone, if this, you're talking of temperament. See, temperament, it's very personal and individual to everyone, right? If I'm a teacher has to be, is expected to be a tolerant person and a large-hearted person. Students many a times commit mistakes. genuinely or unknowingly. Many times students may create problems knowingly and many times unknowingly. Every situation is different and every, every situation is unique. But I tell you, a very fundamental thing. If a teacher is able to instill a confidence among the students, regardless of whatever happens around and not, that this person is only for the students' interest, the problems are going to be solved automatically. See, if my intentions are clear to my students, there may be one incident or two, but then these are not going to linger on, right? And this एक शब्द होता है ना, माफ कर देना, उसमें ताकत बहुत होती है, right? And if a teacher can just overlook, can ignore, and never punish them, please. And if you punish them, the matter is over. I just give you one instance, if you permit me to say. See, one teacher was very strict and very disciplined and all that, whatever. And some students were very upset with him. Well, he is always a young boys, and teacher was actually making certain rules and making certain plans which were not to the liking of the students, and they were to sit and all that. And once it happened so, and the teacher happened to be the principal of that institution. Very genuine person. He was teaching that class also. And then what happened? Then one day they decided they played a trick. They wrote a threatening letter, anonymous threatening letter to the principal. मार दिए जाओगे, ये कर दिए जाओगे, उड़ा देंगे पकड़ के तुम्हें, ये कर देंगे, वो कर देंगे, वगैरह वगैरह वगैरह. Now that letter came to the principal. Now what principal did, I'm just telling you. Principal, these were the days when the emails were not there and WhatsApp messages were not there. There was a handwritten things and all that. Principal recognized the handwriting of that boy. That this boy has written me this threatening letter. He didn't react. He never noticed. He never made it notice anyone that he has received the letter and he knows who has written it. But his attitude towards that boy changed. He was more caring. He was more affectionate. He was more, caring. This word. After some time, that student who was expecting that now this man will, push me, either this man will change his habits or will just enter into the groove and not do all that what I want him not to do and fall in line with us. He didn't fall in line with them. He kept on doing whatever he was doing, whatever good kind of work he was doing. And then that child, that student was taken care of. One day after 2 months or 1.5 months, that boy came to the principal, met him in his office, and he said, I want to meet you. And he said, come. Then he wept. He said, sir, I wrote the letter to you. But the principal says, I knew it. Then he says, why didn't you say anything to me? But he said, no problems. And the matter was over. This is one example. I do not, it came to my mind and I've shared it with you. I think that when the students are not that novice that they will not understand our intentions, and problems will be sorted out, right? Well, the nature of the problem, then you will have to see on the ground. But I think the coercive action by the teachers will always be counterproductive. Have patience, you will win them.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions from the participants? You're surely invited. You can raise your hands. We can take your questions if you are in a queue. No one? Okay. I hope everybody is enlightened after listening to the wonderful thoughts of Dr. Kuldeep Puri. Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable inputs and insight. And after listening to your lecture, my belief in this statement, my voice is audible? Is my voice is audible?
Yes, we can hear you. I
Uh,
can hear you.
Okay. My belief, I was saying in this statement, is all the more strengthened that if you want the change, be the change first. दुनिया आपकी उदाहरण से बदलेगी, आपकी राय से नहीं. और हम सब यहाँ टीचर्स हैं, तो टीचर्स के लिए भी मैं एक शेर कहूंगी कि बादल हो तो बरसो, बादल हो तो बरसो किसी बेआब जमीन पर, खुशबू हो अगर तुम तो बिखर क्यों नहीं जाते. With this, I think we've come to an end of session 1. I still invite any participant, if there is any question or query in their mind or they want to discuss, this is an opportunity. You please can come forward, or otherwise we can conclude.
Because
So we can now have a short tea break of, I think,
actually, I thought that see, half an hour time would be enough for discussion. So that is why I stopped a little earlier. I hope your system doesn't get disturbed.
No, sir, it's totally okay.
Fine.
It was such a brilliant and wonderful talk by Dr. Kuldeep, and I once again thank our resource person. सर मेरे ख्याल से मैं तो अभी भी चाहूंगी कि कोई हमारे पास टाइम है और अब हम कोई डिस्कशन कर सकते तो कर लें. Otherwise our next the next resource person is going to come around 12:15. If any question or any discussion coming up, otherwise we would love to thank Dr. Puri for joining us. सर आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. I think अब आगे किसी सेशन में हम आपके साथ जुड़ना चाहेंगे, फिर से आपको बुलाएंगे. Thank you so much sir for gracing our program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
सर मेरे ख्याल से मैं तो अभी भी चाहूंगी कि कोई I think we would break the session now and meet at 12:10 for the next session. In the meantime, you can have tea or refresh yourself. Okay, see you after the break. Thank you so much.